So tonight's episode of Rampage was going head-to-head with SmackDown, so obviously you knew they were going to try to fuck each other. SmackDown went an extra half hour at 10 to push into Rampage. Ooh. Rampage also went an extra hour before their main show with the buy-in at 9, and also there were points on both Rampage and SmackDown when there were no commercial breaks. So the buy-in kicked off with Tay Conti facing off against Santana Garrett, and Tay ended the match with 4 pump kicks and a DDT for the win. And then we had the recently debuted Bobby Fish against the newly debuting Lee Moriarty. And Fish finished off Lee with the roundhouse kick that he missed last week on Sammy Guevara and pinned him for the win. And I feel like I should talk about Bobby Fish debuting in AEW because I haven't talked about it yet, mostly because I forgot. But I'm honestly really excited to see what Bobby Fish is going to do. Honestly, the fact that he was cut from NXT was pretty shocking, but him joining Adam Cole in AEW is honestly really cool, and I've just been thinking for a while now what would happen if Kyle O'Reilly also left NXT and joined AEW and reformed the Undisputed Era within AEW. Like, I think that would be so cool, like the matches you could come up with. Like, I have a dream scenario where Adam Cole, being as over as he is right now, just gets too big for Kenny Omega's liking and the Elite kick him out, and then he reforms the Undisputed Era with Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly, and we end up having the Elite against the Undisputed Era. Like, we literally just need Kyle O'Reilly to make it happen. And to be honest, I think there's actually a pretty good chance of it, mostly because I honestly can't see a guy like Kyle O'Reilly succeeding in the new NXT. Like, now that Vince McMahon has sort of taken over every brand in WWE, I really can't see a future where Kyle O'Reilly can actually succeed, because I think he just goes against everything that Vince wants in a WrestleMania main eventer or a world champion. So with Kyle O'Reilly almost guaranteed not having a very successful future in WWE, I can honestly see him coming to AEW, and if he does, oh man, the things that we could see. We could literally see the Young Bucks facing off against Red Dragon. And like I said, that dream match of Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks of the Elite facing off against Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, and Bobby Fish of the Undisputed Era. We're so close. We literally just need Kyle to come over. So yeah, Fish coming over is really exciting, and I really feel like AEW is the new hotspot to be. Like, NXT had that spot for a while, for a few years, with all those indie legends that would come in, but I think all the young talent are now flocking over to AEW, so we'll see what happens. And I know Fish is really not that young anymore, but I mean, I think he could still go. Like, he's still a really, really good wrestler for his age, and I'm hoping he does something really exciting in AEW, because I think he deserves it. And then we had Bryan Danielson facing off against Minoru Suzuki, and I mean, the fact that this match is even happening is one of those times where you just think that this is insane. I can't believe AEW is literally giving us all these dream matches. And this was just an all-time classic. I mean, it was such a hard-hitting contest. Suzuki was clobbering Bryan. Bryan was kicking the shit out of Suzuki. And in the end, Suzuki would try to go for a gotch suplex, but Bryan got out and caught Suzuki with his running knee and pinned him for the win. So an absolutely great match. I mean, I think everyone knew that Bryan Danielson was going to have absolutely killer matches in AEW against some of the world's best, but I didn't think we would be seeing it on a weekly basis. And then Rampage officially began on TNT, and just like SmackDown did at 10, Rampage was also commercial free beginning at 10 o'clock. So these two programs were both going head-to-head commercial free, which is pretty indicative of the fact that there is a war. But anyways, Rampage kicked off with CM Punk versus Matt Sydal, and it was pretty cool to see these two in the ring together again after about 10 years of not facing each other. And it was a good match, and towards the end, Sydal would go for Airborne, but Punk stopped him with the GTS and pinned him for the win. And then after the match, Punk and Sydal hugged, which is honestly really nice to see, and it really shows you how far these two have come since, well, And then we had the runaway Ruby Soho facing off against the Bunny. And I honestly just love the fact that Ruby is just embracing the fact that she left WWE with this nickname of hers. But I was wondering where Ruby Soho would go after losing her AEW Women's World title opportunity. And part of me thinks she might be the inaugural TBS champion. But I think we got our answer after the match. But towards the end of the match, Ruby would catch the Bunny in a backslide and pinned her. And then Penelope Ford would come out and attack Ruby Soho and then knocked her out with her brass knucks with the help of the Bunny. So I imagine Ruby is probably going to launch into a rivalry with the two of them. And then we had our main event, which was a trios match between the Inner Circle and the Men of the Year with the debuting Junior Dos Santos. But yo, can we talk for a sec about my man Jorge Masvidal? He looks like he's having so much fun out there in AEW. Like, look at him, he looks so happy, I love it. And I was really interested to see how Junior Dos Santos would do in a pro wrestling environment, but I guess I should have expected what happened because he just came in and kind of fake used some of his MMA stuff. And as a fan of both pro wrestling and MMA, honestly, seeing these two worlds collide was honestly really cool. I love the fact that AEW gives us the best of both worlds. But until Hager got tagged in, I honestly completely forgot that Hager was also at one point an MMA fighter. Unless you count that weird night where they were doing like a faux MMA bout with Jake Hager and Wardlow. But when Junior Dos Santos was dropping hammer fists on Jericho, Hager got tagged in and then he just used hammer fists of his own. But towards the end of the match, Hager picked up Junior Dos Santos and drove him through the timekeeper's table. Way to take your first real bump, my man. But Jericho would lock Scorpio Sky in the walls of Jericho, but Paige Van Zant would distract Aubrey Edwards enough for Jorge Masvidal to hit his signature running knee on Jericho. And I love the fact that it's almost his signature maneuver now, just because of that one night where he erased Ben Askren from the face of the planet with that same running knee. But Jorge took out Jericho, and then Ethan Page capitalized on the distraction and pinned Jericho for the win. And then American Top Team came in and started beating down Jericho, but then the rest of the members of the Inner Circle, LAX, came out and helped Jericho and the Inner Circle. So overall, a good long episode of Rampage tonight with the buy-in and also the commercial-free start to the main show. And we also have AEW Dynamite to cover right afterwards, so that should also be a pretty fun night.